I'm Corbitt with DVAuction, here with your feeder flash for Wednesday, October the 1st, first day of October, hard to believe. Brought to you in part by Performance Livestock Analytics. Performance Livestock Analytics is a livestock technology company that simplifies data and analytics for the livestock industry. It's owned by the original co-founders, both from Osage, Iowa, and that is farmer feeder country, guys. Their team includes about 40 individuals from across the United States, most of them with cattle feeding background. For more information, go to performancelivestocanalytics.com. National Dead Calf Month, and hope that doesn't hit anybody sensitive there, but at least one day out of the year I don't have to search for the title of the feeder flash, because I know that on October the 1st I'm going to call it National Dead Calf Month. And you guys know why. I tell you what, we're really getting into the middle of it now. Actually, our weather has been pretty moderate. It hasn't been too volatile, not down here in the southern plains anyways, and I don't think in many places. We've got some dusty pens out there. That doesn't help. You guys are sleeping with the window open too. You know what's happening. Along about right before the sun comes up, it's getting down there pretty darn chilly. I mean, you're snuggling up with the covers. It's in the high 30s or 40s there, and then late in the afternoon it gets up to the 90s. And I know that doesn't happen anywhere, but it's very volatile and swinging in big temperature sways there. That is hard on cattle. It's hard on elementary school kids, and you get them all together and mix them together. I know last week I crawled on a airplane tube. They crammed me in there with a bunch of other people, and most of them were coughing and hacking and stuff, and it's caused me to have some congestion here this week, you might have noticed, but hopefully that's my herd immunization for the season, and I can get by from now on going forward. But tell you what, it's tough. A lot of these calves are unweaned. I've never seen as many unweaned calves coming to town as there is this year. The market's so good, they want to get them in there and cash them in as quick as they can. And they're seeing that these quality unweaned calves, if they're fresh off the cow, are bringing just as much or more than your weaned calves. They've got a fresher look. I mean, it takes an experienced buyer to look at some calves that might be a little rough around the edges there, that are weaned, that got the same quality as those fluffy, bright-eyed, fancy ones that just got pulled off their mom, and they're all excited and they haven't even realized that they're separated from her now. But you let them get that separation anxiety very long and stand around bawling, and then, man, they can turn from pretty little fresh-faced calves to sick, dreary, miserable-looking things that make you depressed to have to work on them, and they're just take your heart out of it there, guys. But and then when you put them on a truck, it just makes it worse. Get that shipping fever in there. And I tell you what, Fair Peace helps. You know, they're a big sponsor of ours, and we support them wholeheartedly. I actually had one of the biggest order buyers in the country tell me earlier this week he thinks it would really help if these sale barns would put Fair Peace on the calves when they come in. And I think it would. I think it would make a lot of difference. But the problem with this sickness and this dead calf month here in this October, it just hurts so bad when you lose one. You know, people don't think we love cattle as much as we do. Oh my God, you'd give one mouth to mouth or anything you could do to save it these days. I mean, $2,500, $2,800 maybe. I mean, it's just if you lose one, it just hurts so much, and it hurts your bottom line too. We want to save every single one of them if possible there. Coming up, probably as you're watching this, we've already seen the government shut down. So what will happen there? Most all of your regulatory agencies will still work. So we'll still have inspection, we'll still have graders in our plants and things like that. Anything that's regulatory we will have. Anything that's a service we won't have. So there may not be any personnel in your FSA offices. to prepare your payments and your paperwork for the different programs. Whenever the government goes back, they'll go back and finish all that. We may not have any market news personnel. In a lot of cases, those states that have a federal state market news service, the state personnel will pick up or continue to do most of the work there. I know quite a bit about that. Those government shutdowns, that's what ultimately caused me to leave the government 11 years ago. We were having one of those Obama administration government shutdowns, which we had several of, and we were instructed not to be working. Okay, no problem. But I had a livestock grading symposium or correlation, we called them, with my state personnel that I supervised. I had it planned, and I was actually hosting it. I had all the cattle, and I had all the livestock, and I had the people that were going to show us the cattle. I had everything lined up and had been preparing for that for 2 or 3 weeks, and the state people had already appropriated their money to pay for their overnight stay to come up there and go to that symposium, and I wasn't going to miss it. And I didn't miss it. The heck of it was, my supervisor was right there on hand too, but they just kind of overlooked that. But they made a big deal out of it, and ended up being the best thing that ever happened to me in my professional life. I want to tell you about another new sale barn. Now, we have been on a blitz hooking up new sale barns on DVAuction.com. Our newest addition to our family of broadcasted barns is Sterling Livestock Commission in Sterling, Colorado. The Santa Maso family there, they're iconic in the industry, especially within Colorado there, and we're so glad to be involved with them and broadcasting their sale barns. They've got a pretty good run here today. The boys just hooked them up yesterday, and they're going to be on hand to make sure everything's running smooth today. They got a good run of calves and yearlings there in Sterling, Colorado today, and we hope you get a hold of them and ask to be approved at DVAuction.com. They'll be broadcasting every sale here going forward. And any of you other sale barns out there, I tell you what, guys, it's $350 a month. You know, what's the advertisement? What's the promotion worth? What's it worth to be on the feeder flash? What's it worth to be on NationalBeefWire when you get a big quote like that? Be all over social media like that. I tell you what, for what you can run an ad in a publication that nobody reads anymore, you can't afford not to do it. And we would like to have as many new barns as we can. Like I said, we've been pushing they're really hard this summer. We've probably hooked a dozen or more barns up here in just the last couple of months, but we'd be glad to have any more out there that would be willing to come aboard. Let's talk about your board. On Tuesday, October live cattle futures up 52 cents at 231.85. December up 95 at 234.77. Your back months on live cattle up 95 cents to up 157. October feeder cattle up 482. Wow, at 361.02. November was up 547 at 359.35. Your back months on feeder cattle up 415 to up 575. Big gains on your feeder cattle board. The problem is your cash feeders were selling lower on Monday. Even though your board was higher, the cash feeders didn't sell higher on Tuesday, because they're mostly having to do with the live cattle board. They're looking at what they can break even on. Live cattle board wasn't much higher there, but big gains on your feeder cattle. Look at your grains. How about December new crop corn down 6 cents a bushel at 315.5. November beans down 8 3/4 at 10.01 3/4. And your Kansas City hard red winter wheat for December down 10.5 cents a bushel at 497 3/4. Look at your fat cattle trade. And on our last visit, I got so excited about giving your punchy picks, I didn't even remember to give you your fat cattle trade. And I don't know if any of you noticed it. I'm sure some of you did. You just didn't say anything. But your fat cattle trade on Tuesday, of course, haven't seen much of any trade. We did see load or two there in Iowa that sold on late Monday afternoon. They sold at $3.60 dress. That would be $5 lower than the bulk of last week's trade there, but I don't know if it's going to be much lower, guys. Nebraska didn't sell anything. Kansas didn't sell anything. Texas sold a short load of cattle at $237, which will be fully steady with last week. I'll give you your weighted averages from last week's full trade, negotiated out of your 5 or really 4 area feeding region there. It was 232.65 live. That was down 486. And dress trade weighted average last week was 364.97, down 591. We did have our market finder on Tuesday, like we always do, in Yankton, South Dakota. Stockman's livestock market there, they had 1,750 in overnight, 2,400 in for the fed cattle auction there in Yankton, South Dakota. Conventional fed cattle sell from $228.50 to $236. That was $3.5 to $5.5 lower. Program cattle selling from $230 to $239.50, with one package of drug-free cattle at $247 going to kill, but most of the drug-free cattle went back to kill or back to feed like they have the last several weeks. But the program-fed cattle selling $6 to $10 lower. Gary Marks did tell me the quality of the cattle and the finish was very good and comparable to last week's auction there. Box beef cutout values, for a change, choice was not lower. That was the first time it was not lower since September the 8th. Okay, so choice was not a lot higher either. Choice cuts up 35 cents at $371.03. Your selects down 164 at $347.25. Your slaughter up through the first 2 days of the week, 223,000 estimated cattle slaughter. That's 2,000 more than this point last week, 22,000 less than the same week a year ago. Talk about what else is going on. Charolais genetics, guys. If you've been thinking about it, it might be time to do it this year at the spring bull sales. Put some frame on them. The industry wants that. Put some more weaning weight on them. That's good for you. Put some more carcass weight on them. That's good for everybody. And do all that with industry acceptance. That's the key. Now, you can put frame on cattle a lot of different ways, but if it's not accepted by the industry and the market, what good did it do you? Watch this video that I'm going to attach to the end of this Feeder Flash episode for more information, and you can go to poundsmatter.com. Let's talk about your feeder cattle market, brought to you by Specialty Risk Insurance. They are working to protect your livelihood. Your real-time index, based on an 800-pound cash auction steer, running from 7 to 899 pounds, just like your CME feeder cattle index. At the end of your Tuesday sales, at the conclusion of those sales, it was sitting at $363.35, down another $1.17 for Tuesday's trade. Your latest CME cash feeder cattle index sitting at $365.33. Talk about your big sales on Tuesday. Of course, Beaver County Stockyards getting to be your biggest Tuesday sale just about every week. They had 5,400. They had another 500 or so cows on Monday. Market was lower. They had a heck of a sale last week, and this week your market was sure lower. Feeder steers $8 to $13 lower. Your feeder heifers were, and your feeder heifers are also $8 to $13 lower where they were tested. Calves sold unevenly steady. Of course, it depended on the quality and the condition of them. Still had some impressive quotes, and Beaver was your superior steel sales, home of superior standard cattle equipment. Stick out sale of the day. You look at this automated market report and you look at your best tested weights, and you see your weighted averages there. They had 376 head of 5-weight steers in Beaver. They averaged 546 at 420.73 on your weighted average. 331 head of 6-weight steers averaged 639 at 389.91. 257 head of 7-weight steers averaged 735 at 366.58. There were 1,113 head of 8-weight feeder steers in Beaver, Oklahoma on Tuesday. They averaged 851 at 355.40. Another 683 head of 9 weights averaged 948 at 338.85. They did have one string or one group of 108 10-weight steers weighed 1021 and bring 330.5. Now look at your heifers. Just had a couple of groups there that were well tested. 492 5-weight heifers averaged 555 at 368.08, and 1,166 head of 7-weight heifers averaged 763 at 337.16. Good sale there at Beaver County stockyards. Give you some individual quotes from all around the circuit. How about Fallon Livestock in Fallon, Nevada? Way out there in the desert, Nevada, just this side of Reno, guys. They sell 120 steers, weighed 402, bring 583 through the ring there in Fallon, Nevada. How about Riverton, Wyoming? Riverton Livestock Auction, they sell 82 steers, weighed 503 pounds, and bring 503. It takes a lot for 5-weight steers to bring $5, but they do quite a bit, and they did in Riverton, Wyoming on Tuesday. How about some high heifers? Kingsville Livestock Auction in Kingsville, Missouri sells 67 head of the Brubaker heifers. They weighed 688 pounds and bring 379.75. I'm proud to say that they were assembled by my friend Dave Bryan, who buys cattle there in west central Missouri. Good friend of mine, been around the industry forever. Back in the Sioux City days, he was the manager there for a while, but it's one of my favorite people there, Dave Bryan, and his wife Donna. How about Kimball Livestock Exchange in Kimball, South Dakota? 116 steers, weighed 911 at 372.50. That couldn't have been any lower. But the most impressive quote that I saw anywhere on Tuesday in your Macrocin, no BS, top quote from the day, come out of Lolly Brothers Livestock Market, one of my favorite sale barns there, and they're a DVAuction broadcaster and have been forever. Look at these heifers they sell in Macon, Missouri. 74 heifers weighed 656 at 395.35. And that's your feeder flash for Wednesday.
The power of pay weight starts with a Charolais bull. Superior weaning weight matters in your operation, and every pound translates to profit. Rely on the pay weight specialist to deliver more dollars per head per calf weaned. To make a difference on your next calf crop, start with Charolais. No matter the market, Charolais sired calves deliver the performance that increases your take-home pay. That's the Charolais pay weight advantage.